Welcome back to the channel, folks. This is List Of, and today we're looking at the ultimate mystery, the tech that proves our ancestors were operating on a cheat code. We love to think of history as a steady climb. Cavemen, fire, wheel, iPhone. But sometimes historical evidence hits us like a poorly aimed trebuchet, showing us that people thousands of years ago were building things we literally cannot replicate, even with supercomputers and lasers. It's humbling, it's irritating, frankly, it's hilarious. These are the ancient technologies we still can't explain. We start with something so advanced, it makes modern astronomy look like finger painting. 1. The Antikythera Mechanism. Discovered in a shipwreck off the coast of Greece, this is often called the world's first analog computer. It is a bronze gear-driven mechanism, a machine built 2,000 years ago to predict astronomical positions, eclipses, and even the Olympic cycle with insane accuracy. We struggled for decades just to figure out what it was, let alone how they built gears so intricate and precise in 100 BC. They were working with differential gearing and pin and slot mechanisms that wouldn't reappear in Europe for another millennium and a half. Imagine having a rotary phone that could calculate quantum physics. That's the Antikythera. It's complicated, and mostly it just makes us feel bad about our historical understanding of metallurgy. 2. Roman concrete. Our modern infrastructure frequently crumbles. Concrete bridges need replacing every 50 years. Meanwhile, the structures built by the ancient Romans are still standing, often underwater. The Pantheon is still perfect. The vast Roman harbors endure pounding waves. Why? Because Roman concrete, or opus cementitium, was superior. They mixed volcanic ash with lime and seawater, somehow creating a chemical reaction that not only made the material incredibly durable, but actually allowed it to become stronger over time, especially when exposed to water. It basically repairs itself. After generations of research, we've figured out some of the composition, but replicating its longevity without modern synthetic materials remains a challenge. We use rebar that rusts. They used volcanic ash that immortalizes. Rome is literally laughing at our retaining walls. 3. Damascus Steel. If you were a medieval warrior, you wanted a sword made of Damascus steel. This steel, primarily originating from the Middle East between the 9th and 18th centuries, was legendary. It was sharper, more flexible, and harder than anything else available. If you look closely, the metal has a unique, beautiful wavy pattern called a watermark. The secret? It likely involved the use of high-carbon wootz steel imported from India, alongside a specific process of forging at low temperatures and including trace elements like vanadium and manganese impurities. When the supply chain for the original wootz material dried up, the technique vanished. Modern metallurgists can replicate the look, but not the legendary combination of toughness and sharpness. It's the metallurgical equivalent of a lost family recipe. We know the ingredients were steel and heat, but we can't find Granddad's exact spice mix. 4. The Baghdad Battery. In 1938, a German archaeologist uncovered a curious 6-inch clay jar near Baghdad. Inside was a copper cylinder, and inside that, an iron rod. When reconstructed using common materials like grape juice or vinegar as an electrolyte, this assembly generates an electrical charge of around 1 or 2 volts. Dating back to the Parthian era, around 250 BC to AD 650, this pot is essentially a prehistoric battery. The mystery isn't if it works, it's why they built it. Were they lighting small shrines, using it for electroplating gold onto silver? Or was it just a very powerful, very ancient novelty item? We don't know. But the fact remains, 2,000 years ago, someone in the Middle East had better portable power technology than several modern dollar stores. 5. The Nazca Lines. In the arid Peruvian desert, you can find massive geoglyphs etched into the earth, hundreds of geometric shapes, animal figures, and humanoids, some spanning hundreds of feet. These are the Nazca Lines, and the only way to truly appreciate their scale and precision is from the sky. This raises the obvious and unsettling question: why would a thriving culture put thousands of hours of painstaking labor into creating art that can only be properly viewed from an altitude they supposedly were not capable of reaching? Did the Nazca people have balloons? Did they have scaffolding? Or were they just the victims of the world's most confusing group of land surveyors? It remains one of the world's largest, oldest, and most confusing billboards. 6. Inca stonework. Travel to Cusco or Machu Picchu and look at the walls. The Inca built massive structures using enormous stones, some weighing over 100 tons. But here's the catch: they had no mortar. Instead, they carved the stones into complex, interlocking, almost jigsaw puzzle shapes. The stones fit together so perfectly that you can't slide a credit card between them. This construction method made their cities incredibly resistant to earthquakes, which are common in the Andes. The Incas didn't have steel tools, motorized cranes, or construction lasers. They primarily used bronze, stone, and sheer human will. How they transported, shaped, and perfectly fitted these massive polyhedral blocks remains an absolute marvel of engineering. They achieved tolerances that modern construction crews charged with building a simple brick wall often fail to meet. 7. Greek fire. In the 7th century, the Byzantine Empire began using a terrifying water-based weapon called Greek fire. This substance was used in naval battles, where it would be projected through a hose onto enemy ships. The key feature? It couldn't be extinguished by water. In fact, water often made it burn hotter. Think ancient napalm, but scarier. Greek fire was largely responsible for saving Constantinople from multiple sieges. The recipe was a state secret, guarded more fiercely than the location of the emperor's favorite snack machine. Once the empire fell, the recipe vanished. Most researchers believe it involved petroleum, quicklime, or sulfur, but every attempt to recreate a substance with the exact water-defying properties described in historical accounts has failed. The chemical formula is permanently filed under Top Secret, Do Not Find. 8. Ulfberht swords. Finally, we head to the Viking Age. Around the 9th to 11th centuries, hundreds of swords were forged and inscribed with the name Ulfberht. These weren't just exceptional weapons, they were centuries ahead of their time. The Ulfberht swords were made of high-carbon, crucible steel. Steel so pure and so strong that forging it required temperatures of 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit and a sophisticated process called crucible technology, which didn't officially become widespread in Europe until the Industrial Revolution. The metal was nearly flawless, lacking the slag impurities of standard Viking iron. It meant these swords were light, flexible, but brutally strong. How did a select group of blacksmiths in medieval Europe manage to access and utilize steel technology that wouldn't be mastered elsewhere for another 800 years? Scholars suspect trade routes with Persia or advanced furnaces, but the methods remain obscure. It's proof that Viking technology was absolutely metal. From self-repairing concrete to computers run by gears, these ancient innovations tell us a simple truth. History isn't linear. Knowledge is often lost, only to be painfully rediscovered later. It's weird to think that maybe, just maybe, the most technologically advanced society that ever existed was the one building walls out of perfectly fitted rocks. But that's a thought for another list. Thank you for watching this episode of List Of. If you enjoyed being thoroughly humbled by the ingenuity of people who lacked Wi-Fi, hit that subscribe button. Let us know in the comments below which one of these lost technologies you wish we could bring back today. We'll see you in the next list.